Hey everybody, welcome to my NCBOLD session titled Just Say No to Screen Zombies. I'm Marsha Sirkin, and this is my family. I work for Carteret County Schools at the beach as a digital learning coach. I'm the mother of 2 wild boys and a dog. Raising these boys has helped me understand student engagement a lot more than ever. You see, they were in my classroom and they were really quick to let me know if my lessons and teachings were duds as well. I'm also a mountaineer at heart, but I just graduated from UNCW with my add-on in administration, which has given me a good lens to look at classrooms in a different way. As an administrator, how can I grow the people in my building? Now, you might not be an administrator, and that is okay. If you're watching this video, that's already a sign that you're a leader in some capacity. So let's take a look. Whenever I do sessions, I like to share a way for you to connect with your learners. Now, this is an adult learning situation, so I use David. On a scale from David to David, where are you today? And when you're working with adult learners or even children learners, give them a way to connect before they touch content. That gives you time as a leader to assess the situation and see how you might need to adjust what you're doing as needed based on how they are feeling that day. I always like to put this in because it gives me a way to connect with them first. That gives them buy-in that I really care about what they're thinking and how they're feeling, but also gives me, it's like a little pre-assessment. Here are the ISTE leadership standards that we're going to be addressing today. Again, I did do this through the lens of an administrator, but this is helpful for anyone. Pause your screen and look at these. Jot down the numbers, read the standards, but also if you are not in the leadership capacity, let's say that you're a coach, you can look at the coaching standards and see how they weave and relate to this as well. The educational standards for educators, they're all connected in some shape, way, or form, as well as with the student standards. We are going to go on a little zombie hunt. These are some screen zombies, but don't worry, they're unpaid child actors who volunteered to pose for my photo. Be aware of screen zombies in your building. It used to be a quiet classroom seems to be the better classroom, but we know that now to not be true. We want to have classrooms that are engaging and foster growth instead of just compliance, okay? So is there a space in your building for a quiet classroom? Yes. Should it be that way all the time? Absolutely not. In fact, if you have a classroom that looks like this, a more realistic version of this all the time, I would be questioning what's going on. What are they doing? Are they engaging? There's a little saying that I have come to have on my heart that says whoever's doing the talking is doing the learning. So if you just got a bunch of screen zombies in your room, learning is not accelerated. It is not optimal conditions for learning. So we're going to go on a zombie hunt like I mentioned before. I am going to play a video for you, and you're going to look for some screen zombies. Now, I will say that there is a little echo in the recording of this video because it's playing from YouTube, and that goes into my speaker, and then it creates a little reverb. So if you do not want to hear that little bit of reverb, if you notice that bothers you, pause it and tab over, and you can go to YouTube and search ISTE student standards vocabulary, and it will show this video as well. But I'm going to play it for you here so that you can see it. Again, look for some screen zombies.
Shout out to all my 21st century learners out there. You know how we do it. Let's go. Yo, number one, I'm an empowered learner. I set goals and pursue them with fervor. My learning is up to me, it's not passive. My brain learns best when I am digitally proactive. Number two, I'm a digital citizen. I stay safe on all the sites that I'm visiting. I use technology to make a difference. With power comes responsibility. You digging it? I'm a knowledge constructor. Number three, I carefully select and evaluate what I read. Curate media also brilliantly, and I think critically about source validity. Four, I'm an innovative designer. That means I solve problems, major and minor. Start with empathy, ideate, then prototype. Test and iterate, that method is so nice. I'm a computational thinker. Five, improving any process that I can find. Writing algorithms and testing in beta. Analyzing to find the trends in the data. I'm a creative communicator, that's six. Like I put this in a rap song to make it stick. I could use different media or tools like infographics to get my point through. Seven, I'm a global collaborator. I might connect with students way over the equator. Digital tech makes the dream come true. Had a virtual field trip with a kid in Peru. That's 7 ways that I can be a lifelong learner in this 21st century. What kind of student do I want to be? It's my path, that's up to me. That's 7 ways that I can be a lifelong learner in this 21st century. What kind of student do I want to be? It's my path, that's up to me.
I absolutely positively love that video because there are no screen zombies in that video. This is also a time to think about the ISTE standards. Those are North Carolina standards, and this year our state has adopted ISTE standards for educators as standards as well, ISTE standards for coaches, and ISTE standards for leaders, which you looked at earlier. So I encourage you to investigate those. Everyone in North Carolina has an ISTE membership that is given to them by the state, which is very generous. It's got lots of resources. Also, lots of webinars, book resources, tools, so many great things. So take a look at that, and it's in your Rapid Identity NC Ed Cloud. Okay, so we're going to take a little virtual field trip, and I am navigating on this. I'm just not sure how long this Nearpod is going to be active, so I'm recording it so that you can see it. But this is a school. We're going to just walk around. And as we're walking around this classroom, I want you to think about what you see. What do you notice? What do you see and what do you notice? If you were an administrator and this was the classroom set up, let's say that it's the couple days before school and everyone's gone for the day and you are in the building and just walking around to see, like, what questions would you ask the teacher for this classroom? What could you suggest? What do you notice? I notice that there's 2 seats per computer, which means that there is some opportunities for collaboration. I can see everyone's screen, but are there tools that I could do that from somewhere else, maybe from a laptop or from an iPad, so where the classroom doesn't have to be arranged this way. There are rooms in North Carolina that look just like this, and that's okay. It depends on what's going on in the classroom. We have some labs where we have to use these units as opposed to Chromebooks because they might be using a Microsoft platform, or in a lab where you are using maybe Paxton Patterson, like some of your CTE classrooms. But all in all, this model, the way it's set up, is kind of antiquated. So how could you change it up? Again, this is just it's not a judgmental piece, I just want you to prime your mind for thinking of how to really think about suggestions. How could you guide this teacher? Or let's say that you have a new teacher walking into this classroom for the first time. How could you how could you help them transform it into a more modern classroom? Caveat, this is a 3D, a virtual field trip with Nearpod, and they're global. So this is not an American classroom, and it's not a public classroom. You'll see that big old picture, I call it Laser Jesus up there. That always brings a question. Also, their fire codes may be a little different, as is the 2 tanks in the back. But our primary thought is the way the classroom is designed. How could it change? If you need some more time with it, you may pause this video. We're going to move on to another one. Here's a different classroom. I'm going to slowly go around. I want you to just take those same statement stems. I see and I wonder. I see and I wonder. What do you see? What do you wonder? Oh, didn't mean to do that. Something that's been brought up in this session across the state is some folks go, well, where is the technology? Well, that's a very good question. Again, this is a Nearpod that I don't, this is not a school in the United States. This looks like a small group classroom, perhaps. It also appears that they're doing different things depending on where they're sitting. Are they working together? Are they working on their own? Do they have some sort of technology that they bring in, or do they go somewhere? These are all thoughts. Just going to give you a little bit more time. All right. Okay, so we've had a couple of classrooms for you to look at and just prime your mind of when you go into a classroom, what do you see? What do you wonder? I also think about there's some worksheets there. Is there a place for worksheets in the world? Absolutely, sometimes. But is there a way that you can innovate that into something that is more modern and more relevant, and that could connect them with the outside world? Just some thoughts. Okay, so I was having a conversation with a great administrator friend of mine. He says, Marsha, this was over dinner one night, the ones who are using technology the most don't have the highest scores. And that really got me thinking, what in the world? If I'm working so hard to drive innovative classrooms, why are they not performing the best? Like, what's the point if they're not performing the best? And it's not all about test scores, but I would like to hope that our instruction is driven by data, and we want data that proves that what we're doing is effective. So I knew that what we were doing in these classrooms were right. I knew it was right, but I was trying to make some connections. So I spent, from that conversation, some time just really diving deep. And I went to a C Summit in Onslow County, and this was brought up. This right here is a graph that talks about recall, okay? And we're going to think about a school year. A traditional old school year is, you have your school year, you're reviewing, and then you teach. Christmas break, teach. And then the end of the school year is review, and test. Okay, that's 35 weeks of school. And so that model has proven to be very effective. And we're looking here at this black dot. That's that typical antiquated traditional school year of teach, review, test. Okay. But the recall on that is significantly poor after they test. So if you'll look right here, this is at the 2-week mark. Look at, that's only 50% of remembering. Okay, the chances of remembering are 50%. Okay, this line right here, this is scaffolding. Okay, so as they, if that is where you scaffold in your school year, you fold in review throughout the school year, you fold in time for them to make relationship connections between content, and you bring it back. And if you look, these models show that the recall is much higher. And I have never met a school who at the beginning of the school year, after maybe the second week of school, grade levels go, what were they doing last year? I don't understand how they're so far behind. Well, that is a piece of evidence for this model of this black line right here. Okay. Your stronger teachers who fold in those great scaffolds through digital teaching and learning, those are going to be your stronger classrooms where the children retain that information much more. And I want you to think of it through, you're like, okay, what does technology have to do with this? We're not talking about just the physical space that we looked at and observed earlier, but I want you to think about the virtual space. So like Google Classroom or Canvas or Seesaw, is your teachers posting spaces for children to revisit information, or families to look at how-to videos, or the anchor charts that you have in your classroom? Are those posted virtually so that they can use those as resources as they go throughout their school day and review throughout the school year, not just at the end? Okay, so are those in virtual spaces that they can access? We don't want teachers spinning their wheels, but these are simple tools and tricks that they can do to provide information throughout the school year that's readily available to them at all times. That's just one little piece. Okay, so we want to think about quality over quantity. Okay, you don't want kids on devices all day, every minute of the day. It's not about that. It's about the quality of instruction that we give our children. Just like when you were on your phone during the day or on your computer, you can either be shopping on Amazon or you can be building something. Those are two different things, but you still have that screen time. So think of quality over quantity. All right. So as I looked and investigated, okay, what does a quality integrated blended learning atmosphere look like? Okay. And gamification really came to mind because children love games. Okay. 91% of children play some sort of video game. And now they have said that the gamer numbers worldwide have exceeded 3 billion people. Okay. Students with some sort of gamification elements score 14% higher than same age peers who do not. Okay. And game-based motivation increases user engagement tremendously. Okay. Games are a way for children to show us that they can fail and it's okay. Games show us that children can try again. Okay. They definitely show the perseverance piece, but also major motivation. Children love games. And, as a parent, I used to want to limit games, but, at NC State, you can major in game construction where you can build games. There's a whole room in the William Hunt Library that is just dedicated to games. And these are digital games. But you can create your video games, take them into this room in the Hunt Library and test them out with your peers to get peer reviews. And then I'm sure graduate and make tons of money. But games are a way to boost engagement, to boost learner retention, and it's relevant to the real world. But I know you're thinking, my teachers don't have time to just build these games. Well, my friend Matt Miller he is the author of Ditch That Textbook, and he's also done a lot of work with AI recently. He has on his website tons of pre-made games. All you have to do is insert your content. So your teachers aren't reinventing the wheel. They're not having to completely start from the beginning. They can go on here and do that. And also, if you click on my slides in the NCBOLD folder, if you click on the slides and click on this icon, it will take you to the games. With this, I'm just going to give you like a little tour through his gamification link. Again, gamification doesn't have to take over your planning time. There's lots of articles and posts here, but everything has a free template to go with it so that you're not starting over. And they're relevant to to things that, are from our generation that we understand too. Here's some digital games to think about. Lots. There's so much. And if you're interested in reading some of his stuff, he has a great book called Tech Like a Pirate that I lend out all the time. I'm not sure if that tabbed over, but I hope it did. If not, go into my slides so that you can see. Now I'd like to share some real examples of things that are happening in North Carolina. This is with Jessica Esposito. They had second grade. They researched animal habitats, and then they used Scratch, which is a free and safe platform for children to use. And they coded a game to show the habitat living out in a food chain. Here's an example with 3D printing. I was teaching a unit we were doing in the spring, agriculture and planting and gardening, and we used Tinkercad. And you can, not everyone has a 3D printer, but you can still build those tangible items digitally and give them time. So we had the Great Garden Project where children were working in teams of 3, and they could design in 3D in Tinkercad as teams. And then at the end of class, they uploaded their designs into a screen. And then also at the end of class, we looked together at all the pictures of their designs, and we looked at the printability of them and the uniqueness of them. And we voted on the one that we liked the best, and they didn't have names on them, and they were not allowed to claim which one was theirs. And the ones with the most votes got printed. So we had 3D printers, but 850 kids. So I couldn't I just printed 3D designs that they designed all the time. I wouldn't have time to do anything else. So this was a way to scale what they were doing. Also in Carteret County Schools, here's Amanda McCall. She did the walking classroom, and she got a free set of NC ties by talking with that company. They're really great because they create podcasting sets for children that's connected to curriculum. So she would take them on nature walks outside. They would take a walk. They'd listen to their podcast. And then on the way in, they had to buddy up and discuss what was in the podcast. So that was also strengthened in their oral language development and vocabulary, which are two great indicators of success in life, giving them something to talk and move with. And also, as adults, the podcasts are something that we use to cope with things. It's a tool that we use for learning. So these are all things that transfer into adulthood. This is with coaches Amanda McCall and Tony Luther. In Buncombe County Schools with Kendra Jarvis, Miss Scott's class, they took they read books, and then they decided to be movie producers, and they used Canva to create movie posters as if the book were a movie. And they researched actors and who would play the different characters, and made movie posters to go with that. And then they uploaded their movies to ThingLink to add evidence to defend the choices that they made. I loved that. Kendra is so creative. Here's another Carteret County Schools situation. This is my sweet friend Cadence, and she studied habitats and biomes and designed this box here. She wrote scripts on plant and animal life that lived in that biome, and then made a video using green screen. And this is with Do Ink, which is like an app that's $5. But now you can do this in Canva for free. We're going to take a look at her video. Hopefully the echo is not too bad.
Hi, I'm Candace Williams, and this is my saltwater ecosystem. Right here is actually not a plant. This is actually an animal. Its name is coral. This octopus you see is hiding from predators and naturally hiding and changing its color with its habitat. There are a bunch of interesting things, fish that you can see, like the one hiding in this plant, or the one hiding on the side. Well, I guess I gotta go, cause I'm running out of breath. Bye.
All right. What a great opportunity. She could have just read a book or just looked online, but she took the information that she learned and did something really meaningful with it. She became part of that environment and was able to create something really great that we've been able to share all over and talk about it. Again, whoever's doing the talking is doing the learning. In Buncombe County Schools, this is another Kendra Jarvis example. She did where her ESL students created videos in English from where they are. Where they're from. And so they did it in English as far as they notated everything in English and labeled everything in English and wrote it in English, but then they did voiceover and did it in their native language. And I wish I had a video to share with you. Kendra shared this on social media, and it was just so moving, and it was amazing to watch and listen to. But how often do we take children who come to us from all over different parts of the world and fail to embrace their heritage and where they're from? And this is just a really great way to do that. Another Carteret County Schools example, these middle schoolers have their own podcast. You saw the littles listening to podcasts, and these middle schoolers are creating their podcast. So they have a lunch book talk, and that is their principal, Mr. Prue, who they invited to read the book with them. And then during lunch, they met together and did a podcast discussing the book. Now, everyone's wanting to be a part of book talk, and Mr. Prue has a stack of books a mile high. And those are with coaches Chad Howard and Heather Montero. Here's another Carteret County Schools example. This is 4th grade. They researched cash crops in different regions of the state, and then they designed farms and coded robots to harvest the farm. Now, these robots these are old robots from Camp Invention, but you could use really any type of coding robot. But this was a really great way for them to plan out farms, but also to connect technology and agriculture. We have population growth and food shortage. So the more we can do to get children interested in agriculture and farming, the better, because we have raised generations who think of Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. Well, now it's Old MacDonald had a farm and a tractor, E-I-E-I-O. Not just a tractor, a robot, and a 3D not a 3D printer, but a 3D printer for gardens that could measure the weeds and decide how many pesticides it needs, and someone who could a robot that could measure the moisture in the soil, make sure it's watered in a timely manner, so that's one less thing that farmers do not have to cover because labor is difficult. Okay, some ideas that I get for these things are on social media, and I encourage you to use social media to leverage. There's so much more out there in the world. Great educators all over sharing things. And I'm just going to tell you, the bad educators, they do not share what they've got going on in their classroom, but the good ones do. And this is Kyle Hamstra from Wake County, and he is an administrator, and he was doing just walkthroughs in classrooms, and he saw this teacher. She puts up a photo every day, and then the children in the classroom, they make a word bank of vocabulary words based on the photo. They put nouns, verbs, and adjectives, okay, and then answer just a few questions to discuss about the photo every day. That's what they do. And those are just quick writes, and it's not difficult at all. It's just a simple way to do it. Just because you're blending in technology does not mean it needs to be hard, complicated, or complex. Caitlin Tucker is a huge advocate for shrinking your classroom. And when I say shrinking your classroom, it's not really changing the laws or regulations or kicking kids out of your class, but using station rotations to help shrink your classroom to where teachers have a smaller group of children that they're working with at a time, and having other children do meaningful activities. So if you look at this model, we've got teacher rotation. She's got a few kids, and then there's another group doing choice boards or playlists. And those are things that they choose, and then a collaborative learning station. So you have things where they're working independently, opportunities for them to work in pairs, and then opportunities to work with a small group. And then I have the floating teacher or support staff. That's where you bring in your AIG teacher if there's space, or if there's a TA that is used within the building, or let's say a parent volunteer, or let's say that your music teacher or your ITF or your librarian has co-teaching time. How can they fit into that model to expand your territory as well? And this gives a lot of opportunity for feedback, and feedback based on Hattie's scale of effect sizes, which is part of his visible learning research, is 0.62, and anything 0.4 or more is considered the possibility for accelerated learning. And so this is a very high measure for accelerated learning. So I encourage you to think of ways that your educators can shape their classroom to increase feedback, because that's going to accelerate learning. If teachers are always talking about technology replacing them, technology is never going to replace a great teacher, okay? But it can help them optimize situations to where we can offer more and better feedback or more opportunities for children. And this, again, is Caitlin Tucker, and she has wonderful, wonderful stuff out there on Twitter about station rotations. This is where I got the measurement for feedback on Hattie's model. This is the visible learning meta with Corwin, and I'm going to click over here. It's going to open up another tab. So what I encourage you to do is go into the slideshow, and this will be linked so that you can see for yourself the different domains. If you see right here with emotional intelligence, I can click on that. It defines it and gives me the measurement as well. You can also sort based on parent involvement. You can sort based on things that happen at home, things that happen in school. And Hattie's Visible Learning Meta is one of the greatest tools that's been gifted to education as far as I'm concerned, because it helps us sift through the noise of what people are telling us to do in classrooms and gives us a measurement of what really has the greatest impacts and what has the harshest impacts, so that we can make sure that we're doing everything to not do things that have negative impacts on children. Okay, so to sum up some of our thoughts, would students show up if they didn't have to? Okay, in a classroom, would the students show up if they didn't have to? Do they look like they're working together? Okay, what programs are being promoted? Okay, programs never fix kids. Some are just generated worksheets digitally. So what are they promoting? Creativity? Are they promoting collaboration? Are they promoting creating things or critical thinking? Who's doing the talking? And how are they creating? What tools are they using for that? So those are great questions and things to look for as you're doing observations and just really trying to help grow your building or yourself. Here is another space with Matt Miller, 30 activities for any depth of knowledge level. Okay, I'm going to pause my screen real quick and go to that site so that you can see it. Okay, so here are some activities for depth of knowledge level. And this is again from Matt Miller. He's such a wealth of knowledge, has so much, but now that we've looked at digital tools, I want you to think about how that fits in DOK. Okay, so Kahoot's great, but do you want that to be the only technology integration that you have in a classroom? Maybe not, because that's a level 1 depth of knowledge. So as you go through and grow in depth of knowledge, let's move on to level 2. And if you notice, it gets a little more complex, not difficult, but a more cognitive load on the children. Organizing, brainstorming, creating. Now we're in level 3, hexagonal thinking, elimination, defending your answer. Let's move on to 4, AR and VR, designing, creating. Again, this is linked in your slides, and here's that great book that I recommended. That is a great one to have in your school library for your teachers. So there's so much that you can think about when it comes to how to guide and grow your educators. So, this is nothing new to a classroom. We have your 20 passages with comprehension questions and answer keys included. It's so easy for teachers to buy these and print them out every year. But how can you innovate this? How can you make this a better, more engaging activity for children? Okay, so think about that. Could you do a live virtual field trip with a dentist? Could you have them write about their experiences going to a dentist? This is reading comprehension. Could you write something about a local dentist and have them using AI, have them have something that they can relate? There's so many different things. So pause that and think about how you can make this a better experience for children. Here's another one. Everyone's seen this in schools. How can you take this worksheet and innovate it? Could you have some math manipulatives, like some handheld clocks? Could you have some digital clocks? I remember when I taught second grade, this was one of my least favorite units because I couldn't read which one was the longhand and which one was the shorthand when it came to children writing and drawing these things. But that was back in the day when we didn't have some of the digital tools that we have now. How can teachers use digital tools to make them not only children understand this better, but also teachers be able to recognize the content and knowledge of the children better too? That proof of concept is so important. So pause and think of how you can encourage teachers to do something a little different from this and level up. Okay, you're probably thinking, Sirkin, my teachers don't have time to learn this stuff. Think about how you can build a coaching capacity in your district or school. It was not an accident, those school examples that I showed you. I shared a coach working with each one of those activities. So think about how your media specialist is scheduled in the day. Do they have time to co-teach and plan with other teachers? Think about your ITF or your digital learning person. Do they have time in their day to schedule time to plan and to co-teach and to coach your staff? Okay, you don't have to do it alone, and they don't either. You just have to kind of look at your schedule, look at how people are placed, and these are some great human resources in your building that you just might not realize. So, and they have great ideas. So take a look at how they are used in your building. In some capacities, they're testing coordinators. Is that the best space for them? Or could they be helping grow your teachers and grow your students and directly affecting student achievement? We have the North Carolina Coaching Collaborative this year, so be looking at the hashtag NC Coaching Collab on Twitter, and you're going to see some great stuff coming out of that and some great implementation of the ISTE coaching standards and education standards that you can implement and use in your classrooms and schools. Okay, use artificial intelligence to help bridge that creativity gap. Not everyone has to be creative anymore. We have tools to help us do that and to help just prime our brains to be more creative. Here's 2 great books. If you have coaches in your building or if you have people that you want to grow to be coaches, these are the 2 books I would purchase. One is the EdTech Coaching Primer, and it has templates and tools for help guiding that process, and it's all tied to the ISTE coaching standards. And then the EDU Coach Survival Guide is amazing. It actually has a different cover now because they've updated it since COVID, and it has all kinds of situations that come up in the day in the life of a coach and how you can deal with it. If you were here for my live session, we would be playing a game. Here is articles and resources. This has been added to by teachers all across North Carolina. Take one and add one. So you can use this QR code or this bit.ly link. And if you have any ideas or resources that you have used and like to share, add it to this list. And also look at some of the things that other educators have put in and use those as well. If you are a fan of X, formerly known as Twitter, here are some great people on Twitter to follow that are always sharing great things. I also referred to Matt Miller in here. His Twitter handle's there. Catlin Tucker is down there in the glasses. And here's some great people. Some are from North Carolina and all around that really are role models and exemplars as far as digital teaching and learning in the state. I love books. To be a master educator, you must be a master learner. That's what George Curie says. And here's some great books that I have used and refer to quite frequently to guide my thinking and learning. And just I'm always sharing these with educators too. Once we're together, we're always together. We're all on the same team. So feel free to reach out, whether it be on X or through email. Let me know if there's any way that I can help you at any time. happy to help and happy to be on this journey with you. Have a wonderful day.